All right, I'm live. My daughter is still asleep as we're on summer vacation, so I just did a little live video outside, and the connection wasn't so great, so I thought I'd come back inside and do a video. Hi. As I was doing the live video earlier outside that had the poor connection, there was a request to talk about ways to reduce stress. And I thought I would share. I came up with a list of 17 things that I like to do to reduce stress. So I'm going to share those things, okay? And I'm going to move through them because I don't want to take forever with this, but I'll just flow through them, okay? So first thing, I have 17 things to reduce stress. Number one, meditate. And my meditation practice is really important. And so what I do in the morning is I wake up, I do some practice of, I ask myself what's bothering me. I look at what's bothering me. I ask if there's anything I can learn from it. I don't linger there. And then after that, I move into doing some inner body awareness practices and meditation, like Eckhart Tolle meditating. I do some present moment meditating. I do some breath work. After that, I do some gratitude thought, some gratitude awareness, and then I go about my day. So meditating in the beginning of the day is important for me. That's a big stress-reducing thing. I also do it. I set aside meditation where I set aside a couple minutes in the middle of my workday when I'm with clients so that I can be peaceful and reduce stress. I also do meditating in the moment when I'm like right now. As I'm talking, I'm present to the awareness in my hands or the awareness in my feet. Like, that's inner body meditating. And that can keep you grounded so that you don't run off with your thoughts too much. And so not only do I do actual meditating where I'm sitting still and becoming present to my self as the awareness itself, not only do I do that, but also throughout the day, I like to meditate in the moment when I'm with people. So if I'm with a client, I'm a voice teacher, so if I'm with a client, sometimes I'll just be meditating while they're singing for me or while I'm talking. And the way I like to mostly do that is just to have it's the inner body awareness meditating. Or I'll just feel, like for me, if I'm playing the piano, I'll just feel the keys as I'm playing the song and become present to that, and just become present to the way my feet feel, or if I'm sitting, how my body feels sitting on the chair. Like, that's in the moment meditating. That's kind of what I call doing meditating. So setting aside stillness meditating and also doing meditating. That's one way I like to reduce stress. If you're just chiming in, I'm talking about ways to reduce stress. Someone asked me earlier today, so I thought I would share. Another thing, having an emotional thought process. An emotional thought process is a process that you use to deal with things as they come up. And for me, that is when something comes up, I become present to myself as the awareness around the thing that comes up. I look at it, I give it space, I acknowledge it. I don't try to get rid of the reaction. I also don't try to indulge it and figure it out. Just let it be. I ask the universe, is there anything that I can learn from this right now? And if nothing comes up immediately, then I ask the universe if there's anything that I can learn from this today. I'm open to receive guidance around this, and then I guide my mind away from it. So an emotional thought process, that's the one that I use. Something comes up, I look at it, I put awareness on it, I make peace with it, I allow it to be, and then I guide my thoughts somewhere else. Now, inside of that process, it's not always like I become present to something, guide my thoughts away, and then it's all hunky dory. It doesn't quite work that way. So I sometimes if you weren't present and something's bothering me, and then I wasn't aware of it for like 30 minutes or a while, and it's got some momentum. Once I become present to it, the more momentum it has, the longer it will take for my thoughts to refocus in some other direction. But that's my process. Is I acknowledge something that comes up, I look at it, I make peace with it being there, I ask to learn from it, I guide my thoughts somewhere else, and eventually my attention will move into another direction. So that's my emotional thought process. Whoops, scrolling is funny. Next one that I'll talk about is talking, reading, and watching materials on about existence. Hey there, welcome for joining in. I'll wave to everybody. And so talking about ways to reduce stress, as I had a question earlier about that. Material. This is one, talking, reading, watching material about existence. What I just mean by that's kind of a wrap it all up type of a thing. There's something stress reducing about detaching from whatever's bothering us by talking about the universe, talking about existence, talking about creation, talking about why we're here. How did we get here? What is this world? What's real? Like talking about that, studying things around that, making a daily practice of looking at things like that reduces stress in a very clear way, because it helps to, most of the things that are causing us stress, maybe all of the things that are causing us stress, are trivial things, relatively speaking. And when we zoom out a bit, it really helps put things in perspective. So that's one way. That's another way to reduce stress. Here's another way. Reaching out to help someone. Reaching out to help someone is a very powerful way to get out of our heads, because a lot of times when we're feeling stress because of our problems, And so when we get outside of our head and we are able to help someone else and focus on someone else, it's very logical that stress is reduced, because we're not thinking about the thoughts are not in us that were causing us stress. I'm a voice teacher, and I find that if I'm in a funk or I'm bothered by some thoughts when I start teaching, by the end of a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour stretch, I'm completely somewhere else, because I was completely there for them. And when I'm completely there for them, I feel, it gives me peace. It reduces my stress. Okay. Next, manifesting visualization. And how is manifesting visualization helpful in reducing stress? Well, here's how. One of the things that I do enjoy is asking the question, how could it get any better than this? How can my life get any better than this? And in manifesting visualization, sometimes people have woken up. They've become aware and present inside of a life that is a very stressful, it's organized in a stressful way, maybe 70, 80-hour work week with kids, stress of, maybe separation, whatever. They've created a life that has a lot of physical world things, making it hard to do practices that give that are peaceful practices. So this is where taking time to visualize a life that is peaceful, to visualize a life that is joyful, to visualize yourself having all the time you need to do all of the things that you want to do that do reduce stress and make you feel happy is important. Because sometimes I'll say all this list of things, and then the reaction might be, well, I don't have time to do 12 of those 15 things or whatever. Visualizing yourself having time, visualizing yourself having a life, because it's the egoic mind, I believe, that says that we're unable to have a life of peace, that we have to fearfully work so hard to be able to survive, that we're not able to find peace. And I believe that most of the time in our culture nowadays, people are working frantically to afford the life that they afford the things that they're supporting in their lives, the stuff, as opposed to living for the joy of being happy, regardless of what external things are happening. So, visualizing a life where we're peaceful, right? And that where we have time for peace. So next thing, physical exercise. Physical exercise is something that gives me great joy. When I'm exercising, if I'm doing cardiovascular exercise, that can completely transform my state of being. I feel elated, I feel euphoric, endorphins, I feel high. It's an incredible feeling. So physical exercise is great. Yoga is a wonderful high. It's a wonderful feeling. It's a great stress-reducing thing that I do. Now here's another one, intimacy. Being with a loved one, spending time with someone you love, touching, intimacy is incredibly stress-reducing. And I don't think I need to go any further with that. I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Laughing. I find that there is, get a good laugh going, finding somebody on YouTube you think is funny, or a stand-up comedian, cutting up jokes, putting them on Instagram. No matter where emotionally we're at, whatever stress we have, whatever is coming up in us that's creating a loop of fear with, fear reacting with a thought, and then the thought is fearful, and then it creates more fear, that's really stress in all ways and shapes and forms. Fear is kind of the bigger emotion that manifests as all sorts of things, but really it's fear with a thought, looping. And laughing at the fear is a really powerful one. If you're present enough to really catch it and like, oh, look at what I'm afraid of today. I guess I'm afraid of being embarrassed today. It's like the ridiculousness of whatever your fear is. When you laugh at it, it takes the power out of it. And also just laughing in general is a state of being shifter. Funny stuff, talking about funny things, Next one, dancing. The sillier the better. Like if I can get up and dance and turn off my I don't care what people think about me and move just like crazy dancing, I start laughing uncontrollably, no matter if I'm by myself or with other people. State of being shifter, reducer of stress for me. I did put yoga down as a separate one. I mentioned that under physical activity. Yoga, it's great. I do a little bit of yoga every morning. I don't do like a full class. I do want to get into doing a class. I like doing classes, but I do every morning. I do about 15 minutes of poses, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. And that's a helpful thing for me for reducing stress. Wim Hof method. The Wim Hof method is it's a breathing cold exposure meditation method that Wim Hof, if you want to look him up, it's incredible. It involves this breathing, cold exposure. And although I don't do as much with the cold exposure, I do have interest in pursuing that more. Like cold showers and stuff, which, wow, that's a real state of being changer. But I do the breathing pretty regularly, and that is so transformative. Whatever I go into, it's like a form of meditation almost, but it's more active in breathing. So that's something I do to reduce stress. Cleaning. I don't do this one enough. But if I don't know what to do and I know cleaning is on the to-do list, if I feel unclear about what my next thing to do in the day is, I always find that when I clean something, there's a little, oh, that's nice. At least that's clean. At least all of the Tupperware are organized. So that's one. Facing fears inventory. This one is important. This one I do. Sometimes I do this in the morning when I ask what's bothering me. I just kind of open up to, is there any fear lurking underneath the radar that's attempting to give me guidance. But doing like really intense fear inventory work, intense is the wrong word, doing thorough inventory work, I believe is really helpful because, if we're talking about reducing stress, we're talking about, the way our fear is stress, fear. When our fears come up, it's our body's reaction to the stress, to the fear that causes the stress. All of the physical symptoms of the stress. So by doing work where we face our demons, face our thoughts that we don't want to think about, look at the situations in our lives that we perceive happened to us or that we did to others that we don't feel good about, that we feel uncomfortable with, that we haven't made peace with yet. That's another way to reduce stress. It's not reducing stress. It's not a reduction of stress in the beginning of the process. It's actually an increase of stress to do fear and inventory work. However, after you've gone through it, there's so much reduction of stress because these thoughts that you have an emotion that when you think them, the body goes, oh, I don't want to think that, and then the body reacts. That stress. By looking at these things, making peace with them, being okay with, surrendering to the reality of what's happened, of what is happening, and being okay with that, like making peace, genuinely doing the work, which it's not an overnight thing, but doing that work, there is a lot of peace in that and a lot of stress reduction. Not right away, and sometimes we're not in a place, we're so stressed we're not ready to look yet. We just have to get to a state of being where we are ready to look. Sometimes that is the way we have to handle it. But I have to say, facing fears and inventory is one of the things I believe, because I do really believe in that process for myself, and I do believe that's a big part of the reduction of stress in my life. Being in nature is another one. When I'm in nature, I find that instantly I feel less stressful for the most part, unless maybe I haven't been in a hurricane, but that might be an exception. But being in nature is a great reduction of stress for me. Eating mindfully. When I sit, delicious food, yeah. If I sit down and eat something that tastes really good, and I'm not scattered in my monkey mind, but I'm eating it very carefully and I'm savoring the bites. I don't overeat when I do that, and also it tastes really good. A lot of times I used to, and I still do sometimes, eat mindlessly. Where I'm not paying attention. But when I do eat mindfully, that's another thing that reduces stress for me. Gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling is something that, that's such a transformative thing. Gratitude work in general. I try to do it as much as I can throughout the day. I do, in the middle of my morning meditating, I do gratitude work. And writing things out. Now, I don't journal as much as saying it out loud to myself, but a lot of people like to write. And last thing I have here on the list is create anything joyful. And I mean anything. Create a song, create a painting, make a dish cooking, do anything, grow a garden, make something with your friends, write a story, build a house, build a car, build an airplane, build a robot. These are all things that reduce stress. Literally, I feel less stressful when I'm excited about and doing something that I'm enjoying. I don't feel that dis-ease in me. So there's a list of 17 things to reduce stress. If there's ever anything that you'd be interested in hearing me talk about, just leave me a message. I do like the idea of these live videos. I just realized now that when I end the live video, I can save the video to my camera roll. So I thought what I'll do, because they do disappear after 24 hours, I'll save these and then I'll post them to my YouTube channel for Selfless Awakening, so they're still available there. All right, so anyway, sending you all love. Have a beautiful day. Yeah, enjoy. Stress-free day.